There have been over 1,100 reported sightings of the thylacine since its extinction, and some people have captured incredibly convincing footage claiming what they saw was in fact a thylacine. Today, we'll be analyzing in depth the top 6 videos, and each one keeps getting even more convincing. So, what is a thylacine aside from being my favorite animal? Well, it's a Tasmanian tiger, an amazing marsupial carnivore that is like some kind of hybrid between a wolf, a tiger, and a kangaroo. Thylacine were the apex predators of New Guinea, Australia, and Tasmania until dingoes were introduced around 4,000 years ago. In Tasmania, thylacine not only survived but thrived until humans started farming there, and fearing thylacine would kill livestock, placed a bounty on their heads. Now, keep in mind that thylacine supposedly went extinct from the Australian mainland 3,200 years ago, and the last known living thylacine died in the Hobart Zoo in 1936. The footage we will be looking at today will be from Tasmania and mainland Australia. Let's jump right in. Sighting number 1, August 2022. A woman and her family were hiking in Bel Air National Park in Adelaide, South Australia, when they spotted an unusual creature. The animal moved with a lolloping gait and had a strange appearance, unlike any known dog, fox, or kangaroo. The woman's sister suggested it might be a thylacine. This sighting adds to reports of the other strange creatures seen in this very same park. Let's have a look. Okay, so there's the creature. I've paused it here, and as you can see here, it's a big, open, green, grassy area. It's very wooded, and as I play, they're starting to zoom in. This footage is captured by Jessie Milday, it looks like, so credit to her for taking an attempt at maybe finding a thylacine. Okay, it's this nice, big, green, open area. It's wooded, but they're sparse enough that you actually do have a clear line of sight of the animal. As usual with reported extinct animal videos, it looks like it was shot on a potato, so it's all grainy and it's a million miles away. But there is a pretty interesting and relatively unique look to this animal, and that is that elongated body, the backwards facing legs, and even what looks to be a relatively stiff tail, which does make you think thylacine, but it hasn't moved. Right now it basically just looks like a bush. So here you hear the woman making this sound, this woo sound, which I think is to get the creature's attention. This is the first piece of footage to me that is starting to rule it out. So the animal hears the woman, lifts its head, and one thing that you see immediately is the shape of the ears. Now, if you look at a side-by-side between a thylacine head and a fox head, thylacine have very cute little rounded ears that are much more high up on the head, whereas foxes notoriously have those big triangular fox ears, and that's sort of what I'm seeing here in this grainy footage. But the animal looks over, goes back to the ground, and then sort of takes off to the left-hand side into the bush. Now, it is an interesting and relatively compelling piece of footage, but I would say what you're seeing is actually a big problem, and that problem is one of introduced species. Foxes have been introduced into Australia. They're rampant on the mainland, actually eating a lot of the native animals, in addition to some of the other introduced species, such as rabbits. To me, this is relatively compelling, but I think the ears alone really rule it out. It is interesting to see how skinny the tail is and the fact that the tail's down. The gait is unusual, but it doesn't scream thylacine to me. What it does scream is mangy fox, and there's two problems with that. One is mange is a rampant problem since thylacine have been eradicated, and two is foxes are introduced species. They can be sickly and ill, and that is what could lead to this unusual behavior, sort of standing there in the mid-daylight, in this open area, not in hiding, and acting the way that this is acting. So to me, as compelling as this footage may be, I'm not getting thylacine. Sighting number 2. All right, so this next one, the person actually slows down the footage several times to give us a really close look. So this sighting was captured on camera in Adelaide, same place as the last one. A dog-like creature can be seen moving among the bushes. What's interesting about this is 5 people are said to have spotted Tasmanian tigers in the same exact area in March of 2015, and this footage comes to us in 2016. Let's have a look. right, so the camera's panning up. Right now we're looking in the trees. Oh, I see it there. Okay, so that's interesting. So you see it zooms in and it's coming out from behind this house. There's this sort of dark color and this long straight tail. The tail is really, really fascinating. And it is around some trash cans, which is sort of an indication of something that we'll talk about in a second here. Let me just continue to analyze it. And there is a bit of dark coloration on the body, which may or may not be stripes. So this is a fascinating piece of footage. I have seen it before. I remember when this came out, but it's just so far from the word definitive. So this footage to me is incredibly interesting. Now there's a couple pros and there's a couple cons. The cons are the fact that it's around a house, it's in a person's backyard, it's in mainland Australia, which I think is less probable than Tasmania and certainly less probable than New Guinea, and it's around trash cans. Now, if you've ever been to the United Kingdom, you know that foxes there are all over people's backyards digging in through trash cans. Now, one of the big pros of this footage leading to it potentially being a thylacine, not just the stripes, not just the way that it looks, but is the very distinct hock, which is the joint in the hind leg between the knee and the fetlock. It's sort of the equivalent of the human ankle on its rear foot. And so when you look at that, when you zoom in on this footage, you really do get a look at this interesting hock that doesn't look that much like a fox. It really does look a little bit more thylacine-y, which I think is why people have maybe been compelled to believe that this could be a thylacine. And in addition to the hock, it's got this long, stiff, pointy tail that is indicative of a marsupial like a kangaroo or of course a thylacine, and even more so than that, and the thing that really differentiates it from a fox is that where the tail connects to the body is very thick and wide, again indicative of a marsupial. That being said, my general consensus on this would be some kind of a dog. I want to believe, but given the location, given where it is, given what it is, given the likelihood that this animal would be hanging around people's trash cans, I have to lean towards likely a feral dog on this one. So really cool sighting. I can see how people got excited by it, but to me, it's just not screaming thylacine. All right, before we continue, have a little magic mind, stay sharp, make sure I can really review this footage and not miss any details. Sighting number 3. So this is one of the most famous thylacine sightings in history that was captured by a group called Tagoa in 2008 in Western Victoria. So this video was taken in the southwestern part of Victoria, and where it gets kind of weird is the woman said that she had seen this animal before many times and even used binoculars and saw the stripes on its hind and tail. She said it had a prehistoric head, direct quote. Then she went and bought a camcorder and got the video that we're about to see now. She has seen these striped animals, her quote, at least a dozen times, even seen pups with the mother. The woman said she has actually seen a fox and this exact thylacine together, and that she knows the difference between them both. This to me is pretty bizarre in itself, because why would a thylacine and a fox be hanging out together in Australia? But the fact that she had that side-by-side comparison, you know, sort of gives weight to both sides. So the grainy footage that we're about to see was said to be filmed at dusk, around 660 feet away from the animal. The camera is at max zoom, meaning it's zoomed all the way in. So before we break it down any further, let's actually look at the video and give it a bit of a fair shot. All right, so as I pull up this video here, I do want to point out that this is copywritten material. So we're reviewing this as sort of investigative journalists. So whoever owns the copyright to this, I hope you let us get through our analysis of this video here. So we'll put the copyright number on screen, but awesome job. Okay, so first piece of this video, you can see the outline of the animal. We get no real color based on the time of day and the zoom in. And there is an interesting gait as the creature moves from left to right. It's clearly not that scared because it moves over and then it stops. Now we have this really interesting stiff tail, the thing that thylacine is so infamous for. But as you pause it from a side view, what you can see is that tail is relatively skinny. It doesn't really have that kangaroo tail-like thing that is used for so much balance for marsupials. Now, I'm relatively convinced, right? I feel like this is a thylacine as I look at this video until I get about 40 seconds in. And then the animal pops its head up and starts to move at a more rapid speed. Now to me, right here, right as this creature is hopping along, you get that very, very iconic fox-like gait, that sort of hoppy, hoppy hop that we've seen time and time again in incredible nature documentaries as foxes sort of leap and bound through the grass. Not a gait that is conducive to thylacine anatomy. In addition to that, what you can sort of see here, and to me the biggest giveaway in this video to the unlikelihood that it's a thylacine, and hey, by the way, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is a thylacine and I'm dead wrong and somebody goes out there and proves it, because that would be just the greatest discovery ever. I hope I'm dead wrong, but this is just my analysis. My analysis is, as he hops away here, you can see that this animal's front right foot is injured. It's favoring that front left foot. It's using that for all of its mobility, and it's keeping that front right foot up, which again tells me that this is likely a mangy fox. It's lost most of its hair. It's clearly injured, which is why it's behaving in this sort of erratic way. It's hopping like a fox. And again, it does have those relatively large foxish ears, those large triangular ears as opposed to the small rounded ears. Now that being said, this is great footage. I can see why it's the most compelling piece of footage that's ever been captured, because it really does look like a thylacine. And again, I hope I'm dead wrong. I really, really hope that this is a thylacine and somebody goes out there and finds it. But, you know, sadly, in this field of work, without really crystal clear definitive proof, something like this goes discredited. And in my opinion, when you look at it, when you look at the way it's hunching, it's sniffing, it's hopping, the way it's holding its clearly injured leg, this is an injured fox that is cruising around in some form of desperation, and unfortunately, unlikely to be a thylacine. Sighting number 4. This one is very cryptic and very weird, and at the same time, very, very convincing for a fraction of a second. So it's not clear where this footage was taken. It was published by an Australian news company called the Herald Sun in 2017 with no credit. Well, you know what? Before I say anything more, let's take a look at it. And look at that, right there, boom. Big striped animal, it's orange, it's got the ears, it's cruising left to right. Unlike the previous videos that we've looked at, this one you can see in the clear as day, orange with the black stripes, looks just like a thylacine. You're like, holy crap, that really, really could be it. Now, why is this such shenanigans? Well, who's ever filmed a fraction of a second like that when they've got probably the most important piece of footage in history? Where did it come from? Where is it going in the video? Why is there no credit? Why was this so cryptic as to where it was filmed? And all of these other various questions pop up. Well, as much as I want to believe, just like with all those other videos, this is almost certainly a dog that someone painted to look like a thylacine. There's really nothing else it could be. The stripes appear to start from the neck as opposed to halfway down the body. This is like a hoax where somebody may have wanted to pretend there was a tiger cruising around or pretended it was a thylacine. Whoever you are that did this, you're a real jerk, because it's really exciting to get this kind of footage. But then as soon as you take the time to analyze what we're seeing, there are just too many downsides to the footage for it to be a thylacine. But to me, that one, and I remember when it came out, it was like, oh my God! And then you think about it for a second, and you're like, God, you really are a jerk, whoever did this. So simply put, that one is just utter nonsense. Sighting number 5, and one that I was so excited about when I first saw it, and still to this day, like, am hanging on to the hope that this one could be real. So a group called the Booth Richardson Tiger Team, BRTT, released footage claiming to show a thylacine. The team, which had been searching for the supposedly extinct species for years, says the video was captured using cameras set up in the Medina area, 52 miles west of Hobart in Tasmania. Now, this is good because we're back in Tasmania, which to me is still more likely to have thylacine than mainland Australia, however, maybe slightly less likely than Western Papua New Guinea. But at least it's in Tasmania, where I do believe there is a more likely chance of there still being thylacine than in mainland Australia. So let's take a look at the footage. So there's two videos here. So the BRT team has this camera set up in the most beautiful piece of Tasmanian habitat that just looks so compelling. So they're showing it here from 2016. Bam, I paused it right here. They're claiming that this potentially could be a thylacine. So you see this little sort of blurred head that pops up right in front of the camera. And of course, it's way too close to the camera to get anything at all. To me, this one is a throwaway sighting. It's nothing definitive. It could be any number of different creatures. It could even be a leaf blowing by. Probably not. It looks like a live animal. But it certainly is nothing to say for sure that it's a thylacine. But let's look at video number 2, which to me is the exciting one. So video number 2, it's a big wide shot. And in the distance, you see an animal with the right kind of gait, the right kind of tail, everything cruising just barely into the distance. So here they've sort of blacked out the surrounding. And again, you see the creature head off. And it really does have the right sort of look to what a thylacine could be. You know, there's something there. There's something very unusual. And while team members of BRT are convinced that the sighting's authentic, there are experts that have reached a consensus, including one of my favorite people, Nick Mooney, who I did that expedition with. Nick looked at this footage himself and said that he believes there's, you know, quote, a 20% chance that the animal is a thylacine, but is much more likely to be an adorable and very cool creature that we filmed while we were in Tasmania with Nick called the spotted quoll. And when you look back at this footage and you sort of try and do scale of what the animal is in reference to the trees and the moss and the ground, it really does look closer in size to a quoll than it does to a thylacine. So I love this footage. BRT team, good job on getting it. I mean, it feels like it's so close, but I just, you know, once again, cannot be definitive. It's just like all of these videos. It looks like it was shot on a baked potato, but it is so close to looking like the right thing. But I'd have to say, you know, and Nick's a much better expert than I am at this, I'd have to say he's probably right that it is indeed a spotted quoll. Sighting number 6, and to me, probably the best sighting to date. It was shot on 8mm film in 1973, so this is older footage, but it's been remastered, and we're going to take a look at it here in a second. What's so interesting about this footage is that nobody, myself included, has truly been able to fully discredit it. In addition to that, people have noted that there is documented evidence that thylacines persisted in South Australia, where this was filmed, at the Flinders Ranges in the state's east until about 1830, and possibly as late as 1850. So the Australian Geographic Magazine and others have described how a spat of thylacine sightings occurred in this exact region in the late 1960s and 1970s from where this footage came from. So let's take a look at it, and then I'll give you a little bit more background. So you see it's remastered. Now this one is just so much better than the others because look at the way the animal is moving, look at the gait, look at the speed at which you're seeing that creature move from the right-hand side of the frame to the left. The ears are smaller, the tail is stiff while it runs. The gait is that of an athletic creature that is healthy, not an injured animal like a mangy fox. It just looks so good. But at the end of the day, it's just 10 seconds of grainy footage from 1973 that Gary and Liz Doyle, that's why this is known as the Doyle sighting, captured. And it is so good, but at the same time, there's really nothing that you can do. You see the footage as the animal runs across the road in front of them in mainland Australia, and oh, man, it's great footage. It's just great footage, and no matter who you are, experts far greater than myself included, will look at that and go, what the heck was that? Was that a dog with a weird tail? Was that a super healthy fox that was mutated? Or was it maybe the extinct thylacine that somebody actually caught on film many, many years after they were declared extinct, 3,200 years after they were believed to be extinct in mainland Australia? And we'll never really know until we find it ourselves, or maybe the guys over at Colossal Biosciences bring one back. So there you have it, 6 of the best thylacine sighting videos. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with me? Do you think any of these videos actually shows a thylacine? Do me a favor, like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below.